ברוכים הבאים, welcome to כל אל אהבת ישראל. בעזרת השם, today we have a continued class about King Shaul, שאול המלך. We are in the book of שמואל א', chapter 13, פרק י"ג, שמואל א', first שמואל. So בעזרת השם, as usual, I want to first and foremost dedicate this class to our sponsor and to our supporters. So Be'ezat Hashem, first and foremost, I want to say that today's shiur is in honor of the neshama of Geula Bat Sarah, the Mishpachat HaKohen, Be'ezat Hashem Began Eden Tihi Nishmata. And we also want to say thank you to Bernie and Zahavit Baruch, Refuah Shlema Be'ezat Hashem to Baruch Chai Ben Chaya Miriam. We want to say Refuah Shlema to Zahavit Bat Tova Be'ezat Hashem, and also Refuah Shlema to our new lung transplant recipient Be'ezat Hashem. Refuah Shlema ליוסף בן אסתר, ובעזרת השם הצלחה ורפואה שלמה למשה בן מרסל ואסתר בת לודמילה, שבעזרת השם גם הם יקבלו השתלה מהירה בעזרת השם ובריאה. And again, we want to say thank you to our sponsor, Mr. and Mrs. Dani Almog, needforbuild.com, and to Mr. and Mrs. Yonatan Harush. We want to thank them, and Be'ezat Hashem, Hatzlacha to all their sponsors and to their family, and to all of you, our viewers. Be'ezat Hashem, Hatzlacha with all you do. Refuah Shlema to Flori Bat Rachel, Anat Bat Zizel, Chaim Ben Remond, Yaakov Ben Genia, Yaniv Meir Ben Chana Anet, Karen Bat Aliza, Shulamit Bat Sipora, Michal Bat Ruchama, ובעזרת השם, יחד עם כל חולי עמך ישראל. We also want to dedicate this class to our parents, אבי מורי ניסים בן פרחיה, אמי מורתי רחל בת רוחמה, מאיר אברהם יעקב, עינב בת שרה, גבריאל בן שרה, טובה בת יפה. Okay, so בעזרת השם we are going to continue with the King Shaul. So now, as we remember, King Shaul, of course, was become the king according to Hashem's request. He will be the first king of the people of Israel. הוא היה המלך הראשון שנמלך על עם ישראל על ידי הקדוש ברוך הוא, שנשלח, כמובן שלח את הנביא שמואל. שמואל הנביא שהיה בן 52 עכשיו, הוא ממליך את שאול. He's making Shaul the king. Shmuel is 52 years old. This is like basically his last days. And we know that the Torah says, Ben Shana Shaul b'malko u'shtei shanim malach al Israel. So the Torah says here something amazing. The Torah says that King Shaul was 1 year old. And that was his first 2 years of being a king. So what does it mean? Our sages will explain to us that he was so pure, he was like a 1 year old baby. He was so pure that he never ever sinned in his whole life. And he was so humble, and it was so nichbal hakelim, the Torah says, that he was like a child, a 1 year old baby. You know, when you look at a baby, you always smile. Why? Because babies have no sins. They come pure. Later on, when they grow up, they have chas v'chalila, sins, lashon hara, and all of a sudden, they have to start fixing. But Shaul, as we know, had 0 sins, even when he was older, and he looks like a son, a 1 year old baby, even when he was a king, as far as his sin, his purity. And then the first thing Shaul does, he creates a military. Shaul HaMelech is the first one to start a real military, we call tzva keva, so to speak. We know many times before wars, our judges collected soldiers just for the specific war. And after that, they dispersed and went to their homes. But in this case, in Shaul, because he was the first king, by the way, unlike David HaMelech, And unlike Shlomo, that were anointed with a special oil, Shemen HaMishcha, Shaul was anointed with an oil of persimmon. Persimmon oil, by the way, the Gemara says is like gasoline as far as being flammable. It explodes. There is in the Gemara story that one mother-in-law used it to let her daughter-in-law light the candle. She did not like her, and the daughter-in-law got all burnt. And from that מעשה הגמרא לא אישרה שימוש בשמן אפרסמון, מאוד מאוד דליק אומרת הגמרא. But it would smell so good that, we know that one of the rivers that come from heavens is what we call Nahar Farsemon. And we'll get to it a little bit later, but now Shaul is starting his kingship and he becomes the first king. So he put together military. ויבחר לו שאול 3,000 מישראל ויהיו עם שאול 2,000 במחמש ובהר בית אל ו1,000 היו עם יונתן בגבעת בנימין. ויתר העם שלח איש לאוהליו. So King Shaul creates a military of 3,000 soldiers. He has 2,000 soldiers with him and 1,000 soldiers with his son Yonatan. And of course, the rest of the people then left. He chose, it says Vayivchar. When you say Vayivchar, you have to have what we call the word Vayivchar. You have to choose carefully, right? And Shaul chose, he thought he had a great soldiers, but we'll see that something happened. So, of course, we said, Vayach Yonatan etz natziv pelishtim asher begeva. So Yonatan, the son, does something. He's basically beginning the mutiny against the Philistine. So we know that Philistine ruled in the land of Israel, especially in the south part. And this is really the mutiny, the beginning of Mered Neged HaPelishtim. And Yonatan killed their so-called governor, the Moshel, the Nagid. And the Philistine heard about it. And of course, we see that they're about to fight with the people of Israel. And Shaul blows the shofar. B'chol haaretz le'emor yishmeu ha'ivrim. Meaning, in the old days when they blew the shofar, it could be for two reasons. One, to celebrate, or one, to warn against war. And it says, B'chol haaretz, meaning that everybody heard, from Dan, up in the north, from the river, from the Mount Hermon, so to speak, Tel Dan. And by the way, this called Tel Dan and Nachal Dan is because the tribe of Dan, they were so immense in numbers. Originally, they were in the areas of the center of Israel, just like we call today Gush Dan, Tel Aviv area. When they became so immense and they didn't have enough room, they asked and got permission to move up north and to take an area of what we call the Hermon, the Mount Hermon, and the whole above areas, as we know, Tel Dan, Nachal Dan. By the way, the word Yarden, the river Jordan, it's come from the Yarad Midan. Yarad from the tribe of Dan. The water come from the Ahuzat Dan in the north, and that's why it's called Yarden, Yarad Dan. It comes from Dan, and it gives water to the whole Eretz Israel, from Mount Hermon all the way to, of course, it pours into the Kinneret, the Sea of Galilee, and then continues all the way to the Dead Sea. And this water gives water for the whole people of Israel and the other 2.5 tribes that were on the other side of the river, which we know was what we call Rashet Tevot Gerim, Gimel Resh Mem, Gad, and we know, Reuven, and half of Menashe. So we know that Shaul wanted to make sure that everybody in Israel heard that the word is coming. Le'emor yishmeu ha'ivrim. Ha'ivrim, of course, we know the name of a Hebrew, Ivri, is because Abraham Avinu was me'ever la'Yarden. Abraham, as we learned today in our parasha, Lech Lecha, that's we are, focusing on Abraham Avinu right now. And of course, everything that has to do with his greatness. And he was me'ever la'Yarden. He was on the other side of the river meaning both in physical way and in spiritual way, he was with Hashem. וכל ישראל שמעו לאמור, היכה שאול את נציב פלישתים. So here we see that really, even though we said before that Yonatan is the one that killed the governor of the Philistine, not to mix with Palestine. Palestinian is not the same. They're morons and picking up a name they don't even know how to copy. But the Pelishtim were basically, so to speak, the people that ruled in Gaza. It's funny, Gaza is really always been a problematic place, even back then. And of course, he says here that actually Shaul killed the governor of the Philistines, meaning that it was his order, so to speak, to his son. וגם נבאש הארץ והפלישתים ויצקו אחם אחרי שאול לגלגל. So, of course, they had enough. The Philistine was what we call the so-called ruling party all over Israel, and Israel had enough. They say enough is enough. Now that we have a king, let's take them down and let's destroy them. But how do we start? We ruined and killed their own, so to speak, head, the head of the snake, the governor. And then a war began and ensued. And the Philistines, as they say, נאספו להילחם עם ישראל 30,000 רכב ו6,000 פרשים, ועם ככל אשר על שפת הים. So we see here something amazing. The ratio of warriors throughout history was very, very large and immense compared to the Jewish people. When the Arab world wanted to go fight Israel, all the way from the judges until this recent history of the Independence War and Six-Day War and Yom Kippur War, there was always almost 1 to 10. The ratio was, if Israel had 3,000 soldiers, they had 30,000 just vehicles. That means in each vehicle there's few soldiers. And then they had, of course, and that's what we call להילחם עשה 30,000 רכב, meaning 30,000 carriers, so to speak, and 6,000 parashim. Parashim, usually those are the people that carry all their weapons on their horses, and they're what we call the first attack. ועם ככל אשר על שפת הים. The Torah described that there were so many. The Torah uses the same words that Hashem blessed Avraham Avinu in Parashat Lech Lecha, והרבה זרעך ככל הים, meaning I will make your children like the sand on the beach. What kind of blessing is that? So, the Zohar Kadosh explains something amazing. מה זה הברכה של ככל? It says here, just like Avraham Avinu, ונתברך ככל אשר על שפת הים. The sand on the shores of the beach. So we know the world is very interesting, has 72% water and 28% earth. Our cell in our body has exactly the same ratio, 72% liquid and 28% matter. And Hashem promised that the water will never ever be able to conquer the whole sand. Meaning that there will be no such thing as global warming and the water will come all over. Hashem already promised. There was one time where the Mabul came all over. He says it will never happen again. So don't let any of those crazy leftists, say the water, will rise and the whole world will be covered with water and global warming and all this nonsense. Hashem says no matter how much hurricanes, no matter how much typhoons, no matter how much all these winds and tsunamis, the water can never conquer the earth, the sand. Just like the Jews, nobody can eliminate the Jews. You might move them from one place to the other on every beach around the world, but you'll never be able to cover them, to conquer them. And it says, ויעלו ויחנו במכמוש קדמת בית אבן. And of course, the people of Israel now became fearful. The people of Israel, instead of trusting in Hashem, because Hashem says, Adonai ilachem lachem, אני אלחם לכם, ואתם תחרישון. I will do your war if you study Torah. Plow in the Torah, Hashem says, I will win your wars. The people of Israel feared and escaped. They saw that none of the people of Israel coming to fight. ויתחבאו העם במערות ובחבכים ובסלעים ובצרחים ובבורות. You know, the people of Israel, instead of standing up with Shaul, the 3,000 warriors, and the people of Israel, when they saw the mass military coming towards them and gathering on the border, the people of Israel went to hide, and some of them even left the land of Israel. They went to the east side of the river. It says, ועברים עברו את הירדן, ארץ גד וגלעד ושאול עודנו בגלגל, וכל העם חרדו אחריו. It says Shaul was coming and the people of Israel were terrified. ושאול עודנו בגלגל. You know, he's still waiting there, and nobody's showing up, so to speak. Everybody's afraid. ויאכל 7 ימים למועד אשר שמואל, ולא בא שמואל לגלגל, ויפץ העם מעליו. So we know in chapter 10, Shmuel promised Shaul that when, you know, the time will come, it will be 7 days he has to wait for him. When he becomes a king before the war, because one of the instructions of Shaul was to destroy the Amalekite, destroy the nation that has zero respect to Hashem, to the people of Israel. And Hashem says, I will never rest until you destroy Amalek. We know Amalek appeared to us in many times, but there's 3 major times that Amalek showed up to fight the people of Israel. But every time he showed up, something good happened thereafter. For an example, the first time when the people of Israel came out of Egypt, the Amalek came to fight them in Rephidim. You know, even though the whole world saw Hashem might destroying the Egyptian and doing the Kriyat Yam Suf, opening the Sea of Reeds and the people of Israel crossing and all the Egyptian drowning, all that, the whole world feared the people of Israel, except one nation, Amalek. Question is, why Amalek came to them in that place, Rephidim? So we see that Rephidim is the word Rafu Yedehem. The people of Israel all of a sudden lost their faith and lost the ways of Hashem. They went 3 days without finding water, meaning water Torah. So the first time Amalek came to fight, that was against the people of Israel. And of course it was Moshe and Aaron and Joshua. And as we know, Moshe was raising his hand to fight the angel. You know, when he was praying to fight the angel of Amalek, every time he was raising his hand, Yoshua and the soldiers would win. Whenever he got tired, they put him down, Yoshua would lose. So we know that Aaron, and if I'm not mistaken, it was his son, Eliezer, held his hands up and put a stone to sit on. And Joshua won the war. And immediately thereafter, what happened after this destruction? Of course, they won and destroyed Amalek of the time. And right there, after that, they went and received the Torah and built the Mishkan. Right? The second time Amalek showed up, he came here with Shaul. We know Shaul, of course, later on will make a mistake. He will not kill Amalek, the king, and he will save some of the animals. And Shmuel HaNavi was very upset with him because that was his major and one and only task before building the Mikdash. And he had mercy on the king of Amalek. And of course, he had also mercy on the animals and the women. And of course, Shmuel says, what have you done? And because you did not follow the instruction of Hashem, you will not be king forever, meaning that your home and the lineage of you, so to speak, will not be the king. It will transfer to the house of David. And that's exactly what happened. And the question is asked, why Hashem says, kill their animals too. What does the animal has to do with this? Why do you have to kill the goats and the sheep and the cows or whatever animals the Amalekite has? So the Zohar Kadosh brings that the only nation in the world that had powers of what we call the magic, the black magic, a powerful magic that they can shape shift, they can change their appearance from human to animal, were the Amalekite. So whenever you see a sheep or any animal in the people of Amalek, they're not really animals. They're people that knew how to use this magic and change their appearance. You're fighting soldiers, all of a sudden you turn around, they become goats. A baby goat or a sheep, and you have such mercy on it. You don't want to kill it. That's what happened with Shaul. But of course, we know that Shmuel killed all of them. And he personally decapitated the head of Amalek. But not before this Amalek did something. We'll get to it in a minute. So after the second Amalek, what happened? We know the first Bet HaMikdash was built, right? So we have the Mishkan with the first one. The second Amalek, we have the first Bet HaMikdash. And of course, the third time, we know that when Shaul had mercy on the king of Amalek before Shmuel killed him, Amalek slept with a woman, and this woman gave birth, and her son and grandson become Haman later on. Haman Agagi, that's the third Amalek. And as we know, he came after the destruction of the first temple of Babel, right? The temple of Shlomo stood up for 410 years. And then the Nebuchadnezzar destroyed the first temple and they went out to Babel. And 52 years later, which is the same age of Shmuel and Navi, the Persian Ahasuerus ruled over the people of Israel. He defeated the Babylonian. He married the granddaughter of Nebuchadnezzar, Vashti, and he ruled the people of Israel. And Haman was actually this baby that was saved from the generation of Shaul that did not kill Amalek. And of course, after this was also been beaten and destroyed by Mordechai and Esther, we built the second temple. So really, every time Amalek come, why is he come? You know, why Amalek has come through different nations, different times, different point and periods of history, is really because we allow it. You know, Amalek is an acronym. Am Moel Lo Kadosh. We, the people of Israel, betray Hashem, we're not holy, and he sent us Amalek. So in essence, we bring Amalek upon us. אנחנו מביאים על Amalek עלינו. And we see that we have so many problems throughout history with different Amalek in different, location in the world, different nations. So in essence, really, Shaul, his main thing, he failed with. But let's continue in the Torah. And of course, we know there is the famous, David HaMelech revealed to us the power of Shmuel and Shaul and Moshe and Aaron. So it says in Tehillim, Moshe ve'Aaron b'choanav, u'Shmuel b'kor'ei shemo. So the Zohar Kadosh bring, and it's also Khatam Sofer and Arizal mentioned that first. The Arizal says something amazing. The Arizal says that, of course, we know from the Gemara that Moshe and Aaron, Shmuel and Shaul, especially Shmuel, was equivalent to Moshe and Aaron, but with the help of Shaul. The Arizal says something amazing. Arizal, as we know, was one of the biggest Mekubalim. They say he was the reincarnation of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And the Arizal revealed to us that there is certain letters that if a person has it in their names, they have the ability to prophesize and the ability to receive a higher understanding and blessings from above nature. So for an example, Arizal says, You know, by the way, the Arizal, when somebody came to see him, he only looked at their forehead and he could tell what letters are missing or damaged and what needs to be fixed. What's the tikkun of this neshama? And he taught us that there is three letters that's called emesh. Emesh, aleph, mem, shin. If a person has it in their name, they very, very much has a blessing from above that's above normal of regular people. So if we take Moshe and Aaron, Moshe has mem, shin, Aaron has aleph. Together they have emesh. And if we take Shmuel, it has all three letters in one name, right? Shin, Mem, Aleph, Emesh, Shama, Shin, Mem, Aleph, Asham, right? The Korban. Shmuel basically was equivalent to Moshe and Aaron combined. But Shmuel, with his modesty, says, I'm equivalent because I have Shaul with me. And we see that the Arizal, by the way, about 450 years in Tzfat. Many, many stories about the Arizal, but there's one story I want to bring quickly, that the Arizal, you know, his rabbi was the Ramak, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero. And Rabbi Moshe Cordovero revealed to him that he's going to die and that he will be the next one, and he has to then transfer his Torah to the Marhu and all sorts and so on. And in the funeral of the Ramak, there is also a pillar of fire, just like in the prophecies. They said that when Mashiach will come, there's a pillar of fire that the whole world will see, but only very few people will be able to notice that before. And he saw this pillar of fire, and he asked all the Talmidei Chachamim or anybody that was there in the funeral in Tzfat, and you know, right where the Arizal mikveh on the other side, that's where everybody's buried. Be'ezat Hashem, may we merit to be there, but hopefully not, so we'll be with Mashiach before. But if this is not our time, as Be'ezat Hashem, I asked to be buried there myself. But I was born in Tzfat, but you know, we asked and nobody said no, nobody saw. But after they started leaving the cemetery, one Talmid Chacham came to the Arizal and says, I saw that, I saw. The Arizal says, what did you see? He said, I saw the pillar of fire. The Arizal says, listen, tomorrow morning you come with your parents, you're going to be the shidduch for my daughter. Because only tzaddikim like that has the ability to see it, and it's because your humility, you are very, very humble, anav, and you merited this. The next morning when he came with his parents to the Arizal looked at him and canceled the shidduch. He just looked at his forehead. So the Talmid Chacham and the parents says, why? What happened? He says, last night you became proud and told your friend about it, that you're going to be marrying my daughter, and you saw the pillar and you are better than all of them. You had such a haughtiness to you that you don't deserve anymore. And this is exactly the power of Moshe and Aaron and Shmuel. They were very, very humble. They were able to combine the letters within their names. Any person that has one of the letters is blessed. They say that this person can always have a little bit above all as far as learning, teaching, and all. So continue, and it says that Shaul come and he does something that he was not supposed to do. He says, ויאמר שאול הגישו את העולה אליי והשלמים ויעל העולה. He does the korbanot before Shmuel arrives. Shmuel gave him specific instructions, says, you will wait 7 days, and when I come, that's in chapter 10, we will make sacrifice together. But Shaul does it on his own. He's not waiting for Shmuel. ויאמר שמואל, מה עשית? What have you done? You know, Shmuel, when he came, Hashem told him, listen, there's a problem. Shmuel was still a prophet. He was not the leader of Israel anymore, because they cannot have two kings. And of course, he come and rebuke Shaul. He says, what have you done? By the way, that's why Shaul has what we call Shin Aleph, right? And we see that Shlomo has, Shin and Mem. All of them that have been rules and kings has the letters of those Emesh, Shin, Mem, Aleph. And he says to him, because you have not listened and you have not done what I've told you, נסכלת ולא שמרת את מצוות אדוני אלוהיך אשר ציווך. Because originally Shaul was said to be the family of kings. And now that he went against Hashem and, not really Shmuel is delivering the words of God. He says to him, כי עתה הכין אדוני ממלכתך ישראל. Originally, when he asked me to make you the king, he saw in you the lineage of kings of all your family until Mashiach comes. But now that you've done this, ועתה, Shmuel הנביא says to him, ממלכתך לא תקום, ביקש אדוני לו איש כלבבו. ויצווהו אדוני לנגיד על עמו, כי לא שמרת את אשר ציווך אדוני. So here Shmuel revealed to Shaul that actually because of this sin that you've done, even though there is a war at the opening, even though there is a danger, there's always, you have to follow the exact instruction of HaKadosh Baruch Hu when the prophet give it to you. We see that, with Adam HaRishon, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Adam, don't eat from the tree. And Adam did cheshbon and said to Chava, don't touch the tree. And look what happened. You cannot change what Hashem says, even though you think you're doing it for the better good or for everything else. And we see that Hashem here now basically eliminating the continuation and lineage of the kingship from the family of Shaul. ויקם שמואל ויעל מן הגלגל גבעת בנימין ויפקוד שאול את העם הנמצאים עמו כ600 איש. From the 3,000 soldiers that Shaul had, 2,400 left. It's very interesting, 24 is a number that arrives in many, many events and understanding in the Torah. And we know that the Shabbat has 24 gifts. And we know that a husband is supposed to give his wife 24 gifts. And there are 24 hours in a day. The world turning 24,000 miles per day. There's a lot of 24. And also there's 24 books to the Torah. Chav Dalet Sefarim shel Tanakh. Torah, Nevi'im, Ktuvim, as we mentioned, is 24 books. The Torah of Moshe has 5 books. The Nevi'im have 8. And the Ktuvim, the written, has 11. 24, hence gold, the Zahav, the Torah, is read on the days of Zahav, right? We write it on what we call Thursday, Saturday, and Monday. Those are the days of Zahav. Keneged the bad use of gold in the golden calf. Hashem says, measure for measure. You'll now read the Torah and make it the golden days, so to speak. And that's why Zahav, real gold, the best carat is 24 carats. So we see here that 2,400 soldiers left Shaul. Imagine, Chaz v'Chalila, you're about to go to war, and 60% over live. They basically say, no, we're not fighting. We're scared. ושאול ויונתן בנו והעם הנמצא עמם יושבים בגבע בנימין ופלישתים חנו במכמש. So we know that ויצא המשחית, ממחנה פלישתים, 3 ראשים, הראש אחד יפנה אל דרך חופרה, אל ארץ שועל, והראש אחד יפנה דרך בית חורון, והראש אחד יפנה דרך הגבול הנשקף על ידי גיא הצבעונים המדבר. So we know that the mashchit, by the way, mashchit is the destroyer, so to speak. Those are the most trained soldiers that go out to fight from the Palestine. They all carry swords, they all carry spears, they all carry knives, they all come to slaughter. Mashchit from the word shechita, and to destroy. V'cheresh lo yimatzeh, meaning there was nobody in Israel that can make metal. Because you know the Philistines did not allow the people of Israel to arm themselves. So if a person wanted to make anything, to even plow the ground or to cut a tree or to anything, they had to go and have a Philistine make it for them. Only Shaul and his son Yonatan had swords. וירדו כל ישראל הפלישתים ללטוש את מחרשתו, as I mentioned. ויהי היום, ויאמר יונתן בן שאול אל הנער נושא כליו, לך ונעברה אל מצב פלישתים אשר מעבר הלז, ולאביו לא יגיד. יונתן, as we mentioned, is the only one with his father that has a sword, and he is so-called Noseh Kelim, the person that's helping him, a young man. He tells him, let's go and fight the Philistine, just you and I, and don't tell my father. As we know, Yonatan was very, very brave, just like we have, Yoni Netanyahu, Yonatan Netanyahu Zichrono Livracha, in the Entebbe raid, it's amazing. Both he and his brother Binyamin were supposed to go into the same operation. But in the military of Israel, at the time, they're not allowed to have two brothers. God forbid if something happened, they can both die. So Yonatan says, please, let me go. And Bibi allowed him, even though Bibi was also an officer in the special units, in the Matkal, in the Sayeret. And Yonatan Netanyahu, by the way, he died. That was, by the way, it's a very interesting date to know. It happened on 4th of July in 1976, when America celebrated 200 years old. And the people of Israel were celebrating this amazing operation, bringing back almost 99% of the hostages from Uganda, from Entebbe, and Yonatan. 4 people died, 5 if I'm not mistaken, died in this operation. And a lady, as was Dora Bloch, she was in the hospital with a heart attack. Later on, the shame that the people of Israel brought on Uganda, Didi Amin, Yimach Shmo V'Shem Zichro, who died already, the president of Uganda ordered to have this woman, Chaz v'Chalila, cut to pieces and thrown in a trash. Later on, we brought her back to burial in Israel. But in reality, I want to tell you a story that I heard from one of the people that were there. As we know, the ultimatum was to release all the terrorists by 5 a.m. in the morning on 4th of July. Now, of course, the terrorists did not know that Yoni Netanyahu and the paratroopers in Sayeret Matkal were already heading 2 airplanes towards Uganda quietly under the radar, refueling in mid-air. Unbelievable operation. 5 minutes before 5 a.m. that morning on July 4th, they gave the final warning to the government of Israel, the terrorists, and said, we're going to start killing at 5 a.m. if we don't have proof of life that you guys releasing those terrorists from the prisoner of Israel. And there were 2 Hasidim that were sitting among all the Bnei Aruba. There were 2 Hasidim that were the hostages among those 103 people. And a few minutes right before, this Hasidim start saying to everybody, listen, if we're going to die, might as well let's die al Kiddush Hashem, let's sing. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. when they start singing, this is, by the way, from Shir HaShirim. This is one of the verses David HaMelech wrote in the book of Psalms. They start singing first, very few people, more join. They were there singing so loud that the soldiers, the Israeli IDF, the Sayeret Matkal, the paratroopers came in and were able to kill all of them because of this song, because they did not pay attention. They were freaking out. The terrorists didn't know what to do. They could not hear and pay attention to the military of Israel, mighty military of Israel, coming in and killing them all and being able to release all of them. Hine matovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. This is a psalm that David HaMelech provided 4,000 years ago for us to sing and save the people of Israel. David Melech Israel Chai V'Kayam. That happened on July 4th, 1976, which was 200 years to America, what we call here the Independence Day of America. That was the Independence Day of Israel, of this Entebbe. So we see that even using words of Torah, we could be saved. And we'll go back to this parasha. So Yonatan has such faith in Hashem. He says, let's go, just the two of us. Velo higid le'aviv, he didn't tell his father. ושאול יושב בקצה הגבעה תחת הרימון, אשר במגרון, והעם אשר עמו כ-600 איש. 600 verses. What we said before, there's 30,000 vehicles, and there's 3,000 warriors. That means, over 100,000 Philistine, and there is 600 Israeli soldiers. ואחיה בן אחיטוב, אחי אחי כבוד, בן פנחס, בן עלי כהן, אדוני בשילה נושא אפוד העם, לא ידע כי הלך יונתן. So from here we see that even the high priest of the time, that his name was Achia, Ben Achituv, the breastplates between the judges and until the king Shmuel, there were breastplates that made out of cloth, and they used to have a pockets to put all the stones in, the 12 stones of the tribes. And they used to ask, that was the oracle, right? Or and Kol, that was the software that was originally created through the Torah, the power of light and the power of sound, Or and Kol. And the high priest can talk to it and ask questions, and the answers, they light up and tell you what the answer is according to the letters of the 12 tribes. And usually when anything happened like this, the high priest knew about it. This oracle, this ephod, also known as iPad today, would reveal to the high priest that something is going on. But this time he did not know. And as we know, ויאמר יונתן אל הנער נושא כליו, לך ונעברה את מצב הערלים האלה. אולי יעשה אדוני לנו, כי אין לאדוני מעצור להושיע ברב או במעט. Yonatan is unbelievable. The word Yonatan is Hashem Natan. He says to his companion that carry is, literally couples, he's the only one that had a sword, and his father, Shaul. He had a bow and arrow, and these soldiers that were with him. And he says to him, let's go fight this entire Arelim. Arelim is people that don't have circumcision. And he says, Hashem is not about numbers. It could be many or more. It doesn't matter. If Hashem wants you to win, you will win. You can go to war, right, by yourself and win. Many times, right, when you go out to war, you look at the people of Israel. No matter how mighty the nations were from history, from the Amalekite, the Pelishtim, even with Gideon, Gideon, he went with literally 300 people, and he defeated 500,000 people. Just the Chodachanit, the people that used to carry swords, were 120,000 of them, and there was a few 100,000 behind them. And Gideon was able to defeat and destroy all of them just with 300 people and blowing the shofar and putting a fire in a cud. Hashem actually made a miracle for Gideon. The people start killing each other. When the shofarot were blown, 300 shofarot, by the way, that's why if you count the blowing of the shofar from Rosh Chodesh Elul until Yom Kippurim, there is 300 tkiyot altogether. It's from those 300 soldiers that went to fight. It's called Tzvaot Hashem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made such miracles for them that 99% of the soldiers were killed just by the blowing of the shofar. And Yonatan says, here, let's go. Hashem will give it to us. He says, La Adonai, as we say, Ki en la Adonai ma'atzor. There's nothing that can stop Hashem. No matter what, if it's many or little, berav or kimat, it doesn't matter. ויאמר לו נסתכל אליו, עשה כל אשר בלבבך, נתן לך, הנני עמך כלבבך. His right hand guy says, let's do it. Whatever you think, I'm with you. Amazing, amazing power of emunah in Hashem in this very challenging time. We see that Yonatan and his young men that carries his other staff to fight, they had such two against hundreds of thousands of soldiers. ויאמר יונתן, הנה אנחנו עוברים את האנשים ונגלנו עליהם. אם כה יאמרו לנו דמו עד הגיעו אליכם, ועמדנו תחתנו ולא נעלה אליהם. Yonatan is putting together a military trick. David המלך, King David says, בתחבולות תעשה לך מלחמה. With trickery, you should do wars. Sometimes you don't have to go to war to win a war. Right? There's a lot of ways to win a war. One of them, and the most proven, is with Hashem. When you have faith in Hashem, as we know, even with Chizkiyahu, HaKohen, Chizkiyahu, he was surrounded by 180,000 soldiers from King Sancheriv. And he said to Hashem, he just looked over the walls of Jerusalem and he saw this immense amount of soldiers surrounding Jerusalem at 360 degrees. He says to Hashem, listen, I'm going to leave it up to you. I'm going to sleep. I cannot fight them. I don't have weapons. I'm just your servant. And when he woke up in the morning, they were all dead. And the Gemara says that these 180,000 were only the officers. That means there were 2.1 million soldiers that came to fight Israel. They said that when Sancheriv ruled the world, by the way, what's Sancheriv? It has Nes Charav. If you look at the word Sancheriv is Nes Yachriv, right? It will destroy by a miracle. What does it mean? Sancheriv was the only king. There was 10 kings that rule over the world. 10 מלכים שלטו בעולם. אחד מהם זה Sancheriv. One of the 10 kings that ruled the world, the whole world, was Sancheriv. As we know, Achashverosh, David HaMelech, Shlomo HaMelech was one of those 10 kings. Pharaoh was one of the 10 kings. Sancheriv, he did something like no other king. He actually took all the nations of the world and mixed them, moved them from their country and put them in a different country. Meaning that today is not the same people that you think were there before. For an example, if you go to Egypt, it's not the real Egyptians that were in the beginning. They're gone. If you go to Rome, they're not Romans. If you go to Greeks, they're not Greeks. If you go to Chinese, they're not Chinese. If you go to India, they're not Indian. That's why the people of Israel is the only one that survived. No matter where they were put, they're always the people of Israel. And Sancheriv did that because he understood that people don't fight only for their own land. And if they're not in their own land, they will not fight, and he were able to rule the world. So those 180,000 officers of Sancheriv died in one night by Hashem. First they were paralyzed, then they died. The Gemara says that when his soldiers came to Israel and crossed the Jordan River, there were no more water left in the river. Just from the horses coming through, and each horse carried a little bit of water on his legs as they crossed and on a body. By the time the 2.1 million went through, the Jordan River was dry. Amazing. So now, they said Jonathan is using amazing letters. You know, every time you see in the Torah, what Jonathan says, Ve'im ko. Ko is kaf hey. Ko is kedusha, is the highest level. That's why even when Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, Daber el Aaron ve'el banav le'emor, Ko tevarchu et bnei Israel. Ko, as we know, is really Hashem started the world in kaf hey of Elul by words. When Hashem spoke, the sixth day of creation, it starts on kaf hey with Ko. And today, every time we see in the Torah, Ko is a very means Hashem is with you instantly. And Jonathan summoned those two letters. And Jonathan said, Vayomer Jonathan, Im Ko yomru elenu demu ad egiu elechem. He says, Ve'im Ko yomru alenu. He used it several times. And he says, Ki netanam Adonai beyadenu. So Jonathan basically is asking Hashem to help him. He said, yes, they're going to come against us. And then they'll be on top, we'll be on the bottom. And we see that they're coming out of all those holes, chorim, asher itchabu shama, they were hiding, waiting for us. ויאמר נתן לנושא כליו, עלה אחריי, כי נתנם אדוני ביד ישראל. So you know, Jonathan already knows the outcome. Remember, he is the son of Shaul. ויעל יונתן על ידיו ועל רגליו, ונושא כליו אחריו, ויפלו לפני יונתן, ונושא כליו ממוטט אחריו. You know, the two of them climbed the mountain on what we call their hands and knees. You know, there is a story that when the Or HaChaim came to Israel, Rabbi Chaim ben Attar, when he came from Morocco, to actually, they said that he was one of the Mashiachim. And when he came to Israel, there was a Magefa in Yerushalayim. It was like Corona in Yerushalayim. And when he came to the land of Israel, he actually, because of the Magefa in Yerushalayim, because of the virus that was in Jerusalem and in the land of Israel, he decided to go first to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And he went actually to Mount Meron, and when he got to the mountain, he started climbing the mountain on his hands and knees. And he begged Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai to allow him the entrance to his tziyun and to ask to stop this magefa, to pray for the people of Israel. And they said that exactly that happened. He heard a few words that he came out of the graves of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and he delivered them to his Talmid, the Gaon Chida, Rabbi Chaim Azulai. And he said to him, go, there is a secret yeshiva, secret midrash in the old city of Jerusalem, and go tell them to use these words and the Magefa will stop. That's exactly what happened. And he contributed this to Jonathan. He says that even Jonathan, al yadav ve'al raglav ve'noseh elav acharav, they climbed on, it was begging to Hashem to help them. Even though they're climbing up the mountain, all bleeding, you know, to climb a mountain on your hand and knees, it's not an easy task to do, nor you will not come out of it without a scratch. You will come out completely bleeding. and then they be able to kill 20 soldiers, כ-20 איש, וכבחצי מענת צמד שדה. ותהי חרדה במחנה, all of a sudden. He only kills 20. Remember, there's hundreds of thousands. There's just 3,000 mashchitim. There's 30,000 vehicles, so to speak, that each one has at least 2 or 3 or 4. And all the Philistines become very terrified. חרדו גם המה, ותרגז הארץ ותהי לחרדת אלוהים. All of a sudden, the whole land were terrified. They felt Hashem, just like when Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, I'm going to come and speak. When he says, I want you to go and speak the 10 Commandments, Hashem really tricked Moshe Rabbeinu. When he says to him, Daber el ha'am, Moshe Rabbeinu started descending from the top of the Mount Sinai. And as we know, the people of Israel, that he was coming down, Hashem started talking to them. Vayecherad ha'am, the people were terrified and died. Twice. When Hashem says the first Dibra, Anochi Hashem, everybody died. And he said, he revived them, Tchiyat HaMetim, in order to purify them. And he starts saying, Lo yeh lecha, the second commandment, everybody died. And then he revived them again. Why? Now they're completely out of any tum'ah, and their new neshama will be able to receive and to store forever the voice of God. Vayeru ha'am et hakolot. They saw the voice of God. But the vatihi charada, they were terrified. It's exactly what happened here. The whole nation, the country, the people in the land of Israel was lecharadat Elohim. They were terrified. ויראו הצופים לשאול בגבעת בימין, והנה ההמון נמוג וילך והלום. And Shaul was told that, look, the tzofim is usually, they used to have on every top of a mountain a different person that would watch and transfer the message. There were all kinds of smoke signals, so to speak. It's not an Indian thing. It's already been used in the Torah and the Tanakh, and lights fires or delivering people, messages fast, haratzim, tzofim. So they tell Shaul that what's happening, this fear, and there's people, and he start counting his people, and he sees that his Jonathan and Asekelav are missing. ויאמר שאול לאחיה, הגישה ארון האלוהים, כי היה ארון האלוהים היום, ההוא בני ישראל. He asked to bring the Holy Ark, because he understood that the Holy Ark has powers to protect the people of Israel, like before. When the people of Israel were in the desert, they had the 7 clouds of glory and the pillar of light. And the Aaron used to go in front of them. The Holy Ark would go and basically clear the road for them. Imagine have 3.6 million people walking in the desert, and everything is flat and clean, no snakes, no rocks, no valleys. Everything is like walking in air conditioning, so to speak, environment. Nobody sweats, nobody stinks. The clothes is growing with them, they're clean, they're Febreze, air conditioned, there is the man, there is the well of Miriam. It's like an unbelievable hotel, better than any hotel on earth. ויהי דיבר שאול אל הכהן וההמון אשר במחנה פלישתים, וילך הלוך ורב. ויאמר שאול אל הכהן, אסוף ידיך. Now he asked the Kohen to start praying for the people of Israel. The Kohanim, by the way, it's very interesting to know that when the Kohanim do the Birkat HaKohanim, you're not allowed to look at them. אסור להסתכל על הכהנים when they do the blessing, because they bless towards Hashem, then they turn around and they open their hands, right? They go like this. and when their hands are open, the Shekhinah reside within them, and you're not allowed to look directly at them. אסור להסתכל על הכהנים. And every time, whenever there is a word in the Birkat HaKohanim, with the final chaf, Yevarchecha, right? They have to bow. V'ishmerecha. In all the chaz, they have to bow, and in the word shalom, they have to bow. And you're not allowed to look at them. And now, Shaul summons the Kohanim, especially the Kohen Gadol, ויזעק שאול כל העם אשר איתו ויבואו עד המלחמה והנה הייתה חרב איש ברעהו מהומה גדולה. As a miracle happened, they watched that all the enemies start killing each other. והעברים היו לפלישתים כתמול שלשום אשר עלו עמם במחנה סביב וגם המה להיות עם ישראל אשר עם שאול ויונתן. וכל איש ישראל המתחבאים בהר אפרים שמעו כי נסו פלישתים וידבקו גם הם מאחריהם במלחמה. All of a sudden, Shaul and the high priest praying and the Aron HaKodesh with them, and they see that the Philistines start killing each other, and all of a sudden all the people that were hiding had the courage to come out and start fighting and joining Shaul. וישע אדוני ביום ההוא את ישראל, just like in we seen before, as Yashir Moshe is the same verse. Vayosha Adonai bayom hahu et Israel. There it says Miad Mitzrayim, and here it says Vamilchama avra et Bet Even. They reached all the way where the Philistines began. ואיש ישראל ניגש ביום ההוא, ויואל שאול אל העם לאמור, ארור האיש אשר יאכל לחם עד הערב, ונקמתי מאויביי ולא טעם כל העם לחם. Basically, Shaul is announcing of Ta'anit Tzibur. This is a fast day, says nobody eats. Hashem give us a miracle today, and nobody ate. ולא טעם כל העם לחם. וכל הארץ באו ביער, ויהי דבש על פני השדה. Kadosh Baruch Hu does something amazing. You know, it's like the man again, in the form of honey. So it says the man was tzapichit bidvash, like it was sweet, like cotton candy, so to speak. And you can make whatever taste you wanted. You can ask, it will be. And that day, Hashem put this kind of amazing cover on the, on Pnei Hasadeh, in the fields of Israel. And it says in the forest, in the yard. It's by sense, to say that you have in the forest this kind of honey, you would think it will be on top of the trees, because the forest, it's very hard, the canopy of the forest, everything stopped, but it was down below. When they come to pick it, they cannot, all of a sudden disappears. The people of Israel feared because originally Shaul was instructed to hold the whole 7 days full until Shmuel will arrive, and he did it before, and the people of Israel joined him. ויונתן לא שמע והשביע אביו את העם וישלח את קצה המטה אשר בידו ויטבול אותו ביערית. Yonatan, remember, he was not with them, and he did not hear that instruction of his father to all the people, don't touch this honey, don't touch anything. And it says, ויטבול אותה ביערת הדבש וישב ידו אל פיו ותאורנה עיניו. All of a sudden, when he ate this amazing food, his eyes just opened up. He was able to see something that he never seen before, and a sight and vision and understanding that he never understood. ויען איש מהעם ויאמר שבוע השביע אביך את העם לאמור ארור האיש. He says, what are you doing? One of the people said to Yonatan, your father says, don't touch, don't eat it. And whoever does, he'll be cursed. ארור האיש אשר יאכל לחם היום ויעף העם. This person tells Yonatan, what have you done? You're now basically went against the words of your father, and you are cursed, because that's what his father says, Arur, Haish. ויאמר נתן, אחר אבי את הארץ ראונה, כי אורו עיניי, כי טעמתי מעט הדבש הזה, אף כי לא אכול היום מהעם משלל אויביו, אשר מצא כי עתה לא רבתה מכה בפלישתים. Jonathan says, if I was to be punished, Hashem will punish me. But look, I ate from this special honey, and I could see better, and we will win. And that's exactly what happened. ביום ההוא, ויכו ביום ההוא בפלישתים ממחמה שהיה לה, ויעף העם מאוד. They were still fighting, and they're winning, and they're destroying the Philistines. And of course, ויעש, but the Torah says, ויעט העם אל השלל, ויקחו צאן ובקר ובני בקר, וישחטו ארצה, ויאכלו העם על הדם. ויגיד לשאול לאמור, הנה העם חוטאים. The people of Israel, after that day, they keep fighting, and they start taking the loot, and they use the cattle, and they eat it, but they eat it with the blood. And we know Hashem says, you're not allowed to eat the blood. Adam hu hanefesh. ויאמר בגדתם, גלו אלי היום אבן גדולה. So we know that Shaul was very upset that the people of Israel did what they did against his will. But of course, they thought, they won the war, they destroyed the Philistines, now they have their loot, they're allowed to eat it. But of course, they will eat it. They were tired and hungry, and they ate it with the blood, which you're not allowed to. That's why we have to never eat blood, because when you mix blood of, animal within you, you're destroying your nefesh. The blood of, animals don't have neshama. They have only nefesh. It's a lower level of living. And when you eat, you have to completely get rid of all the blood, so you don't mix it within your blood. Then you don't become more animalistic than already you are. And of course, Shaul is upset with the people. ויבן שם שאול מזבח לאדוני, אותו החל לבנות מזבח לאדוני. Shaul is making a sacrifice to Hashem. He's asked the people to bring oxes to atone for the sin that they ate the blood. ויקשו כל העם אל שורו בידו, הלילה וישחטו שם, and Joshua built the altar, מזבח לאדוני. By the way, the word hamizbeach and behema in Gematria is 57, meaning it's equal. You sacrifice kosher animal on the mizbeach, and they do this perfect atonement. The whole sacrifice in Yerushalayim is really to take the material, the physical things, and convert them into a spiritual thing, into holy things. And since we don't have this kind of mikdash, we don't have really Shekhinah, so to speak, like they used to be in Yerushalayim, although we still have Shekhinah and HaKadosh Baruch Hu reside with us all the time. But the Shekhinah of the Korbanot, that's why we say, Hu neshalma parim sefatenu. We have to pay by learning on this amazing Korbanot, the parim, those oxes that were sacrificed, so we can really atone for those sins that we don't have Beit HaMikdash. I want to finish here since we are a little bit over the hour. I want to thank you for being with us. We'll continue again next week on Wednesday, Be'ezat Hashem, B'li Neder. And I want to thank all of you for being with us and for sharing the class with everybody. I'm Rabbi Dahan here, Kolel Ahavat Israel, San Diego. Please share the class so we can have more people learning, and Be'ezat Hashem together will grow and merit Mashiach in our lifetime. And I thank you all. The class will be posted on our website, nesatorah.org. Have a wonderful rest of the week. Tomorrow, Be'ezat Hashem, we have our two other rabbis giving classes, Rabbi Lieder and Rabbi Uri, Be'ezat Hashem, 11 and 12:30. Looking forward to having you. God bless you. Have a wonderful rest of the day. תודה רבה, and שיהיה לכם שבוע טוב בעזרת השם.